I will. Oh, yeah. Breezy blast. Sounds delightful.
If you open it up. When we had them in Vegas, some exploded. So make sure you'll.
Yeah. I always love a zero sugar energy drink. Come on.
Give me your address. I'll send you cases.
Oh, I will gladly.
I'll send you all you want.
Dude, that's amazing.
Or send it via Messenger. I don't know if you have my number or whatever.
John Carter's ex-wife was a big fiddle player, wasn't she? John Carter's ex-wife was a big fiddle player. Yeah. That's a.
Yeah, and funny enough, like when I was playing fiddle with the band on the road, 2 houses down was Gary Allen's fiddle player.
Oh, yeah?
We were like, there were only maybe 10 of us in the city.
Yeah.
And like,
All right, we are back coming to you live from Radio Row here in New Orleans. Hi, we are back coming to you live from Radio Row here in New Orleans. LIX, right? Yeah, X.
Yeah, LAX.
59. Yeah, LAX. I got to start thinking about that. Are you an MMA guy? Are you a UFC? Vegas, is any of that gone your way?
So it's funny because, so let me answer that question in a complicated way because it's an easy question. The answer to that is no, but yes. So it's not a sport I follow. It's a sport I love to watch. So I am the worst in many ways because I have friends in Vegas, and every time I'm out there and there's a fight going on, the number of times I get an invite to go, and I never have any idea who's fighting. I just love watching it. So, that's been sort of the key. My older brother still lives in Vegas, and he's been a lifelong diehard MMA guy for a very long time. And even 20 years ago, every time I go out to visit him, he's like, we're going to the fight. We're going to the fight. And so I think it's one of the coolest experiences live. It's just not something, because it was, especially when I started at ESPN, I'll give you a little dirty behind the scenes ESPN here. When I started at ESPN, if we had tried to talk about MMA at all, UFC particularly, on radio, they shut us down immediately until they signed a deal with UFC. And then all of a sudden they were like, hey, can you have Ariel on every week? And it was like, well, yeah, but so it's funny. Like, I think because it was just a little outside the lexicon of what we ever covered, I've stayed very casual.
What us MMA people, and I'm MMA media, I've covered the UFC longer 100%. Than anybody in the world, blah, 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 blah,
know
blah.
That and respect that.
Is boxing was ESPN. So because boxing and MMA continue to fight, that's what we all believe, that ESPN kept it out, of course, until they made a deal.
There's a real principle, and I don't fault this at all, but the principle, and I learned a lot from it from ESPN, is broadest set of the audience. So when everybody watches and they're like, why are they talking about the Cowboys on Get Up every second? There's an actual honest answer to that. The honest answer is they get daily TV numbers, and they see that people tune out when they stop talking about the Cowboys. So they'll go, it's not ESPN's fault, it's the watch. Sure. Like, if you don't want them to talk about the Cowboys so much, just stop watching Cowboy content. So all of this stuff is studied, and the broadest set of the audience, I learned when I was doing Snapchat. It was interesting. The night that Alex Smith was traded from the Chiefs to Washington, I was on radio, and we blew the show up, and we did the entire night on Alex Smith. And I walked one building over at ESPN, and I was like, all right, SportsCenter on Snapchat. I'm ready. I've got all of these Alex Smith notes. And the boss of SportsCenter said, no, our audience doesn't care. We're going to lead with Alonzo Ball preseason NBA highlight. And I was like, the hell we are. Well, I got the numbers on it the next day. Right. My God, he was right. The minute we mentioned Alex Smith, all the kids that were 13 to 24-year-old, they clicked through. They didn't want it. So broadest set of the audience, that's one of the unfortunate things. I think MMA doesn't need any help. I get that. The weird part about it is I think that some of the mainstream media outlets would be well served if they deconstructed their entire process, took the short-term hit that would come from that, and then truly started covering every sport in a meaningful way and built up that way. If they actually did that, I think more casual sports fans of everything, like I miss the days as somebody that's close friends with all of the SportsCenter anchors, I miss the day where SportsCenter actually showed me random highlights I never would have seen anywhere else in my life. That's just not part of the lexicon anymore.
I'm sure your brother will tell you July. Go to the UFC in July. It's International Fight Week. The rumor is John Jones, Tom Aspinall.
Okay,
that's the fight to go to.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Okay, that I'm in for it. You'll be there, right?
Oh, yeah,
all right. That's like, and then we can hang out at Excalibur for
for $375 every 6 hours or something. All right, so let's final couple of minutes. Let's talk about Sunday. You've said that you're going with Kansas City, and that totally makes sense. Are you the what are those prop bet kind of guys? Are you into that stuff?
Yeah, I like some of the prop bets, and I think Saquon over on rushing makes a lot of sense. The interesting thing about Saquon this year is that yards before contact is a big number to look at advanced analytics, and yards before contact means that from the moment he gets the ball to when he actually gets touched the first time. Part of that is he's shifty and he's hard to take down. But their offensive line for the Eagles is so stinking good that they are leaving all sorts of – the yards before contact was number one for Saquon this year. So he doesn't get touched, and that gives him a little bit more time to read and make a decision. And I keep hearing people say that Kansas City's defensive coordinator, who I earlier said I think is arguably the greatest of all time, Steve Spagnuolo, is 20-4 in the playoffs, by the way, is his career record in the playoffs. I keep hearing people say, well, he's not going to let Saquon beat him. I guess that, to use, you just mentioned John Jones. Sure, I could step in the ring and say, I'm not going to let John Jones hit me. I don't think I'm going to have a full say on that, right? Like, I think we need to apply some of that here. Like, Saquon is truly the most gifted. If I had an MVP vote in the NFL, he would have been my MVP throughout the course of the season. I think he's the most important part of this game and the most important part of the entire season. So I think Saquon's going to eat. Like, the overall rushing yards for Saquon makes a lot of sense. I unfortunately don't think that gets them to a 2-score lead, but Philadelphia should have success. You can run the ball on Kansas City. I think they'll be able to run the ball in this game.
Now, do you think that? Well, let me change my question. What do you think that Philadelphia has to do to win this game?
Well, they got to get to Mahomes, but they got to keep Mahomes from running the football. Mahomes doesn't run a lot during the regular season, but during the playoffs he does. And he's shifty enough that, particularly the Eagles' defensive linemen in the middle, they're huge. And they're going to take over the middle of the offensive line for the Chiefs. I believe that. So what we're going to see are the Chiefs, they're going to have to roll their pocket around a little bit to figure out how to get a better throwing opportunity for Mahomes. In the process of doing that, what you can't let Mahomes do is do that little juke fake out like he thinks he's going to throw the ball and everybody buys it. You can't let Mahomes beat you for 6 or 7 yards here or there. It's just a killer.
Yeah, or a sidearm when he's going down. So you really think this comes down to the line? Really, the defensive line has really got to make the difference for Philadelphia.
100%. Well, for Philly particularly, because Mahomes has been throwing the ball short. He's going to do that a lot. He's going to have to get rid of the ball. Right? I think this is going to be a lot of frustration for Eagles fans because they're going to see Mahomes get the ball and almost immediately get it out of his hands. You're looking at under 2 seconds. Boom, get the ball out. He's going to have to do that.
Expect a lot of blitzing?
Yeah. I think so. But I don't. Early on, I think they're going to figure out, do we even need to? Can the front, because the front four of Philadelphia can get home. Right, they can get home without a lot of help, especially the Chiefs moved Joe Thuney out from guard to tackle to help the edge of their offensive line. It's been a big move to help the time, but that has made the interior of their offensive line more susceptible, and it happens to be the best defensive lineman in this entire game. I would argue that Jalen Carter he's a game wrecker for the Eagles. He's right there in the middle. He's going to shift over to wherever he has the best matchup. They're going to move him a lot, and they're just going to move that pocket back at the feet of Mahomes.
Nothing to do with Sunday, but your opinion, did they make the right decision with Barkley and not having him play in the final game?
Yeah, I think, look, history records matter until they don't. Like this is a 17, and I think not enough people talked about the fact that 17 games is about to go to 18 games. Now, for all the people that were saying he didn't deserve the record because it was one more game, he actually had about the same number of carries. So that's a wash. 18 games, I wouldn't be surprised. In 10 years, it's going to be, should we go to 20 games? Like, this is never ending, right? And there's always going to be another play. Right. So, to me, what Saquon's worked his whole life for is a Super Bowl. And God forbid you just tweak something. You tweak your pinky toe.
Right.
And all of a sudden, your ride to the Super Bowl looks totally different. They don't win that last game without Saquon being who Saquon was early. I mean, I know they blew out the Commanders, but they blew out the Commanders because of Saquon. So, yeah.
I'm not an Eagles fan. I think I've already said it. I want him to win.
Yep.
Now, I don't think they will either. I'm not an Eagles, the Buccaneers, all that stuff, because everything he did this year, when he could have broke the other record, he's like, no, like you just said, let them eat. I'll get mine later. So how can people hear you? Where do they need to go? Let's talk about that for a sec.
The Yahoo Sports app. You can follow me on social media at Jason Fitz, FITZ. But the Yahoo Sports app has a ton of shows out there that we're part of. Also YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Inside Coverage is our NFL show that I'm a part of. But we also have Football 301. That's a great show. And McCoy and Van Noy with a couple of players on it. That's a great show. And and then College Football Power Hour is a college football show I'm part of. So we're doing a lot of stuff at Yahoo I'm really proud of. Like I'm incredibly proud of where I've landed and the work we get to do for Yahoo. So I would just ask everybody to check it out. Like you can look at the Yahoo Sports channel on YouTube, or you can find the Yahoo Sports app. It's all out there for you.
I'm so happy for you. I truly am. And every time I see or hear, I'm like, yeah. All right, let's go hit a break. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thanks.
Let's go hit a quick break. We'll be right back.